Suffice to say that expectations for both sides here in our second match of the Overwatch League are high. A huge amount of Shanghai Dragons fans in the audience, and of course, Los Angeles Gladiators have a ridiculous cohort here in a crowd. I've seen incredible signs like this one. I've seen people in colors. I've seen even the homemade improvised shirts. Shout out to the Shields Up guys there in that front row. Thanks for joining us again, ladies and gentlemen. Map 1 is already done. The Los Angeles Gladiators made a stark statement early on here, Matt.
Yeah, I believe we have some substitutions coming in for this next map, so we can take a look at those. I think there's going to be one for the Los Angeles Gladiators. It'll be Asher coming in for hydration. So Asher primarily only played Tracer for this LA Gladiators team during the preseason. Expect now, as we go into Anubis, you probably see the Tracer and Widowmaker combo.
No doubt about it, I think, and I'll be interested to see how the Shanghai Dragons change up their playstyle. So it's going to be MG subbing in for Susha. So again, this team has multiple flex tank players that can show us a variety of different looks here. I mean, I thought Susha was okay in that previous map. I think, generally speaking, Roshan has been a standout because he's made the main tank role on the Shanghai Dragons look so impressive. Main tank being, you know, playing the Winston or the Reinhardt or a player that doesn't switch around or flex too much. But then again, the Shanghai Dragons lacked a bit of cohesion now. We saw multiple times where there's a primer away to Winston from the Shanghai Dragons trying to get into the back line of the Gladiators and had very little success in doing so.
Yeah, it's something they had issues with during the preseason. As we see, the next map will be the Temple of Anubis. And now they've had a few weeks to work on this now, Shanghai. I know during the preseason, they had some players get in like really late, weren't able to practice here, on the LAN client against a lot of the other teams. But like Zoe was saying, they have practiced a ton leading up to the regular season. I think this is a team that probably still needs a little bit of work, as they progress through the regular season.
And this next map, Temple of Anubis, you've already seen it today, but if you are just joining us, it definitely gives us a little bit of a different flavor of Overwatch than we perhaps see on an escort type map. It's very much more slated into attack and defense categories. And this map in general, what you find, especially on a casual level, if you play at home, can be pretty hard to be successful in attacking. There's definitely, considerable advantage to how defenders set up. They have a lot of high ground, they have space, they have opportunities to use sight lines that the attackers wouldn't otherwise have. Which is why I like this game type so much in this map, because this is where we get to see teams put together these very specifically crafted strategies to try and break the hold of the defenders.
Yeah, on the offensive side, what we see a lot, or at least what we saw a lot during the preseason, is you have your Widow get set up on the archway right in the front of that initial choke point. You try and get your team to force the fight on the point, because if you can force the defense down from the high ground, you can actually give that Widow a lot of easy sight lines, uncontested sight lines to get some picks. So we'll see which team starts on offense. If they elect to go with that strategy on the defensive end, you just do not want to get off that high ground. Your best friend is having that high ground, on the left and right hand side, right by the point. You want to stick to the high ground as much as possible.
And of course, now with Asher coming into the lineup here for the Gladiators, as we mentioned, we will see him play Tracer, and that's what he does primarily play. Surefour can do it himself, and we've seen that, but he prefers to be able to be left to be a little bit more flexible. So the Gladiators have these multiple looks that they can sort of rotate in and out of their particular team with. Bishu obviously is an incredibly good flex tank. His most impressive outings have definitely been on the Zarya and on that Diva pick. But Widowmaker, we've been talking about it all through preseason, Matt. This map is where she thrives. It is all about getting your Widowmaker, your sniper, to be able to not only kill the enemy Widowmaker, but then use the fact that the defenders often have to stand out in the open on this platform and through that little underpass and make themselves quite susceptible to being damaged in that way by sniper fire.
And the picks from Widow are so crucial from the offensive side when you attack point A, because the defense spawns so far away on point A. Most likely, they get...
It's a long walk
Yeah,
back.
if you die once, you may get another shot at it, but we see like one or two picks from a Widow really decide point A. When we get to point B, very difficult to play the Widowmaker rank because the chokes are a little bit smaller, not able to get a lot of those wide sight lines.
And a chance here for the Dragons to put themselves back in the running here. It was a slow start on the previous map, but this is a different type of map and a different type of Overwatch is what we're hoping to be seeing here, especially, of course, from the Shanghai roster. Dia is a player we'd love to see on the sniper or hit scan classes. By hit scan, of course, we mean if you're aiming on something and you click, you're going to hit them. But a Hanzo pick would be an odd one for him on the attack. It'll be a while before we see Shanghai's roster on the attacking side finalized, but let's talk about the LA Gladiators lineup, Matt.
Yeah, so the Gladiators, at least, right now the one thing that stands out, we'll see if they stick with it, is Shaz on the Ana. Usually we see him on the Zenyatta. Ana can be very good on this map because you can get that, high ground like I was talking about, and then also put down a lot of healing from range, right? You're not really kind of out in the open as a Zen. Zen a pretty easy target for a hero like Widowmaker on the other side.
So Anna's obviously also, she's a support player and a healer, but also a sniper, which means that she doesn't have to be in the thick of the action to be doing her best work and getting the most healing down. Obviously, Shaz has his ability also to deter attackers. He has a sleep dart available, so if someone tries to jump on him and remove him, he's going to be able to deal with them. It's going to be very aggressive defense here for Los Angeles Gladiators, though, Matt, because of the Genji and the Tracer are going to be wanting to get onto the backline of Shanghai.
Yeah, the Gladiators are going to play right at that initial choke and just try and jump onto Undead as soon as they see him on the Widowmaker. We'll jump on board with Shanghai. Get a view of what they see here as they're on the attack. As just kind of poking down a little bit. You see, they send their Tracer in. Just get some warmth there. And Dia now trying to work behind enemy lines. MG going to back up as he knows the pressure's coming in on his own Widow, but it's going to be Bishu taking out free field right at the beginning. You cannot lose the support that early on.
See that surgical strike from the LA defense here, and they're able to do that because they have so much mobility. We saw, it was very pronounced that, MG turned around to try and help the people behind him, his backline. But by the time that happened, we saw the kill feed display that free field had already been picked up. Bishu on the Diva himself is doing a very good job of getting in, getting the job done, and getting out.
You see from Undead's POV, they're going to send Roshan in there on the Winston. He's going to get very low, trying to back up. They're trying to force the fight on the point like we were talking about, but the Gladiators are just not going for it right now. They're just going to send Bishu down there to try and contest.
You can look, the sideline is so good for Undead here. He gives you so much pressure from there, but now he's being harassed. This is what LA want to do with this aggressive composition. Shortfall finds his mark, but they've still lost Bishu. No Diva's going to be available now for the Gladiators, but it may not matter. MG drops to the point. You can see he's going to be beset on all sides by enemies. He's forced to head to the high ground, but they've managed to dig Shaz out of hiding in the back line.
And that's huge because you were able to have those players of the Gladiators playing on the point for so long because you had the healing from Ana from afar. As soon as you get Shaz out of the equation, Shanghai should be able to just kind of work down the point here. It's going to be MG taking out I Remix with a self-destruct. Asher, though, still on the point here for the Gladiators with Bishu. Bishu will get demapped. Shanghai should be able to take point A.
Great moment for MG there. You could see he got desuited. He was taken so low that he was forced to eject, but he went for the self-destruct as he was knocked out of the suit. This allowed him to get a kill and jump straight back in the suit after the ability was finished proccing. So then he had the rest of his team join him, and that was very, very important for Shanghai to set that one up nicely. Now the Los Angeles Gladiators have to move to the second point to defend.
Yeah, no support ults here for the Gladiators. Going to get very close with Big Goose to a Valkyrie, but because Shaz was on the Ana, switches over to the Zen, has to work up his way towards that Transcendence. You have both support ults. Here's the Primal Rage coming out to be sure for taking out Roshan. It's going to be Transcendence that comes out from free field. We'll see if Altering decides to use his Valkyrie, and he does, just as Surefour pulls out the Dragon Blade.
The Cheeky Mercy's a bit slippery for Surefour to catch right now. Surefour just has to content himself with getting a little bit of extra damage on the big and bulky targets of the Shanghai Dragons. His Dragon Blade, usually a fight-winning ultimate, wasn't put to great effect there. You can see Surefour again is looking to make sure that free field doesn't have the line of sight to heal the rest of his team, and they're going to chase this Zenyatta all the way home.
Use a lot of ults there from Shanghai. You used yourself a Pulse Bomb, Valkyrie, Transcendence, Primal Rage. You used a lot of ults there and did not get any progress towards point B. See if Surefour decides to make a change. He'll go over to the Junkrat. So Junkrat going to be able to put down a ton of damage through these short chokes. We'll see if Surefour can take out one of these tanks as they try and move their way in.
So the fact that Shanghai used so many ultimates is a pretty clear link to the psychology of that last push for them. They expected or were hoping to win the round off the back of that. It wasn't to be, and now they're going to make do with very little else. Shaz has a Transcendence. Note that he's sitting back. He's trying to make sure he doesn't get jumped on by the divers of the Shanghai Dragons, but that's not good. Undead's going to get up in his face. So much damage at close range available for Reaper that it's really tricky to get out of his clutches once he has you.
But I wonder how long they stick with this Reaper, because Reaper against Junkrat, Reaper's not the most mobile of the DPS heroes. He can go into Wraith form and dodge some shots, but at that time, you probably have your Tracer jumping on him as well. So I think Shanghai may have expected a Sombra here, because a lot of times on point B, we see one of the supports switch over towards a Sombra. You hack that Mega Health Pack right underneath. You're able to build it towards those EMPs. Reaper is great against Sombra. Not really too great against what the Gladiators are throwing out right now.
I hope we see it at some point soon there. You can see Asher was really just trying to do some harassment damage, but is forced to back to the point as the rest of Shanghai have jumped on top of the Gladiators. Roshan, though, goes down first. He was supposed to be the spearhead of the Dragons, and he's cut off at the pass. The damage from Shaz was impressive there. You can see MG goes down, Undead falls, and then Surefour, again, sitting safe. Indirect damage is what Junkrat gives you, and Surefour seems more than happy to deal death from afar.
And you talked about, after game one, maybe the guys advantage from Shanghai, just not on the same page. You saw Roshan dive all the way in there. Usually you see the D.Va follow it up with the defense matrix to try and help out the Winston a little bit, but you saw none of that there. Roshan just go into the back, then he dies, then MG comes in a little bit too late, and then he gets demexed right away. Things fall apart for Shanghai right away as the Gladiators, they will have 6 ultimates going into the fight. Same pretty much for Shanghai.
Shanghai got their ultimates pretty quickly, but no, Ultra gets picked up. Bishu take a bow. A great way to start the fight. Now a self-destructing close quarters could be pretty dangerous for the Dragons. Shawfall's looking for some explosive AoE damage, and he finds it. Undead had no idea what hit him, and Shaz! What a move from him. The headshot on towards MG. It's impressive the way that Shaz is able to lead his targets to account for the slow travel time of these orbs to secure these kills in such crucial scenarios.
And you kill Roshan towards the end there, so it's going to force the Shanghai Dragons to wait a little bit. Shanghai does not use any ultimates there during that fight, so they will come in with all 6.
So it's almost like they're trying to bait ultimates out of the Gladiators. Generally speaking, in Overwatch, if you have more ultimates than your opponent, you're probably going to win the fight. But what's more important is who dies first.
That's huge. They force the Transcendence out early. So Remix and Bishu jump right on top of Freefield. He pops the Transcendence, then they just back out. You've done your job at that point. You get one of those support ults out of the equation.
It's like playing chicken with the enemy, and that time Gladiators are going to have the dinner for free. But Asher, he has a pulse bomb. His ultimate is ready. He wants to try and stick it on someone who's not going to be able to avoid the damage. Asher's forced to recall back in time to avoid the damage in his way, and he's looking for Freefield with that bomb. Freefield gets away from the explosion, but still takes damage from it. Asher now needs to go for a different target. D is forced to back out. The Transcendence now being used for the Gladiators. They're the ones with the extra healing. After forcing it out of the Dragons before they could use it properly, that's a huge bonus for the Gladiators and going to give them the edge here in this fight. Asher finally hunts down Freefield. The assassination was successful, and D is trying to replicate on his own Tracer pick, but it's not going to be enough.
The Gladiators have done a tremendous job of putting a ton of pressure on Freefield. I feel like time after time they jump right on top of him. You see Asher there at the end, able to pick him up, just making his life hell here, Temple of Anubis. And no, Undead still on this Reaper. I think I would like to see him switch over to something else. No, you're not really getting much great use out of the Reaper here.
You can see this is what Shaz did in that last fight again. We highlight this man because he plays one of the most vulnerable characters in the game and is still able to have such a big impact there.
Filthy.
Risk versus reward, Shaz definitely has that ratio under control. So now the Riptide's going to come out again. Sure, for this might be a warning shot. This can zone any way, but it's also going to be able to secure a kill if he uses a possible. No. It's Bishu that gets 2 with that self-destruct. Ultring and Freefield are down. Both supports are missing for Shanghai. They have no healing, and there was no way they'd be able to bear the brunt of the damage that the Gladiators were ready to give.
Now it'll be Big Goose with a Valkyrie. It'll be Shaz with Transcendence for the Gladiators coming up in the next fight. You have Asher with a Pulse Bomb. Maybe he's able to take out, if you can land one on a Freefield, that would force the Transcendence out again for the side of Shanghai, which would be brutal for them. You see the position that Asher is in.
No one's seen him yet either.
Nobody sees him up top here, just being sneaky. How has he not been spotted yet?
It's not a place you normally look at. That's the thing. This is great. So Asher now has a chance to sort of pace himself as he goes right in and tries to find a kill with a pulse bomb. It gets eaten up. The D.Va defense matrix is like a Korean space vacuum. And Asher's ultimate is put to rest to no avail. But there's only 20 seconds left. This is the last push for the Shanghai Dragons, and that bomb could have ended it there. Great stuff from MG to prevent that from decimating his backline.
And the Gladiators, they'll have both your support ults and you'll have Primal Rage. Great to stall out. They just dive in deep. That'll be the Valkyrie that comes out for the Gladiators as they get very aggressive. Freefield going to use the Transcendence. Shanghai needs to get down towards that point, though.
They're running out of time. No time left. They've managed to touch the point before the time ran out, so they're going to get some overtime. Shawfall has a Riptire available, but he needs to find a safe space to use it. Looks like this will do the job just fine. Again, looking for his target. He lands the tire on towards a Primal Rage Winston, but there's so much HP available for Roshan that it's barely a tickle. Shaz again tries to stay safe. You can see him and his other support player are getting pestered in the backside, but MG getting desuited in the fight. Shaz is now looking for his opposite number. Freefield goes low. He's down. Shaz wins the 1v1 on the Zenyatta, and now he has so much space to do what he's been doing this whole round. And that's just nasty. Undead falls into the path of an orb. The Gladiators have won that fight out at a crucial moment, and that's going to be it for the round. It's a second point hold for the Los Angeles Gladiators, and true to name, their defense has been stellar thus far.
And when you can keep a Zenyatta alive, that's as good as Shaz. Obviously, he provides the healing, right, with the his healing orbs, and then obviously Transcendence. But the Discord orb is huge for just overall team damage. It just amplifies the amount of damage you're able to put down on that single target, that when you have your Zenyatta alive most of the time, your team is able to just plow through the opponents relatively easier.
That's insane. That's why it's so hard sometimes to get a good feel for the contribution that a Zenyatta player has to the fight. Because obviously, in Overwatch, you're looking for kills a lot of the time. But Zenyatta adds so much more than that. The effective damage increase that you can offer to your team with good use of Discord orbs can be quite astronomical if it's used correctly. So this is a good look right now, again, for the Gladiators. Once again, all they need to do is get onto that second point and capture it, and that'll be map 2 in the books.
Yeah, it's hard to really quantify what the Zenyatta brings to your team. Obviously, it's easy when you have one like Shaz, who's picking up kills constantly, but yeah, I mean, when you see free field die, right, I know a lot of times early in the fights, it's the tanks not peeling for him, it's the tanks being very aggressive for the Gladiators, doing a nice job targeting him out, and then once you lose, your Transcendence for the AoE healing as the ultimate, you lose the Harmony Orb, able to heal. It's just when you have all that damage and all those big bodies, the tanks coming at you from the Gladiators, and you don't have the Discord to really be able to take them out easy, that's where you see the biggest difference, I think.
That's why Zenyatta players are sought after, definitely at the top levels of Overwatch. So this is an interesting composition. We actually see a Orisa here for the Shanghai Dragons. Probably one of the least mobile characters in the game, and she immediately implies to a viewer that the Shanghai Dragons are not looking to move too far. They want to play around a very localized area and make the most use of the Orisa barrier that can't be shifted.
Yeah, you saw Shanghai setting up on the high ground. What they most likely will do is throw the Orisa barrier down. They'll have Undead on the Widowmaker, stand behind it, getting a damage boost from altering on the Mercy. This is a very difficult setup to break.
And this is also Shanghai admitting that they don't want to take too much ground here. They want to give a lot over to the Gladiators. And the Gladiators can move in towards this point, take up real estate, and they'll have more of an opportunity to decide how they want to attack.
And you saw Surefour at the beginning of the game was on the Widowmaker. I think they actually see what's going on, and they change things up. So they go with Big Goose on the Lucio for the speed to get through the choke, get to the point a little bit faster. They'll have Surefour play the Genji. Doesn't really matter now. It just gets headshotted on the way through.
That's how quick it is. We have no evidence of what actually happened there except for what the kill feed told us. Even though Big Goose was speeding his team up with his aura effect to get into this area of the map, Shaz was just lagging a little bit behind and got caught out there. Nicely done from Undead. Undead's very safe, by the way. He's sitting behind that Orisa shield, so you can't counter that with a Widowmaker. It's really hard to break this high ground position.
And when we go to the overhead map, right here on the high ground, you see it's going to be the push coming in from the Gladiators. They're able to get both supports at the beginning. So what Shanghai also did is, while Shanghai doesn't get a kill here, it is a bloodbath in favor of the Gladiators. But what they were trying to do is they played the Junkrat on the opposite high ground, so when the push came through from the Gladiators, it gives you a spot of mercy to fly to. You can go to the opposite balcony to get to that Junkrat, get out of harm's way. Didn't exactly work out quite well. You see here, Surefour with a dash. You pick up the kill with the Genji, the dash resets, able to just dash right back up, get on through. That was way too easy there for the Gladiators.
That's what a good tank player does for you, but I digress now. I've got to get into the second part because LA are very close to finishing this match in general. Roshan forced to jump away. He has healing from his own Zenyatta, but he's so low, he's being pressured out now. Surefour can just sit behind him. How much space does this man have? He's hardly getting harassed. Another Dragon Blade, that might be the final nail in the coffin, but he catches Dia. It's a salvo of shurikens that claims the life of his opposite number. Now chasing down the Mercy. Ultra can't escape. Freefield's gonna fall next. It was Remix combining with Surefour and the Dragon Blade, this time having a huge impact for the Canadian player. Surefour, again, trying to avoid the explosion there from the self-destruct of the Diva, and Undead pretty much on his own here. He's down. Not much the Doomfist can do, and that's gonna be it. The Gladiators only needed to get 1/3 or 33% of the capture process on that second map. That's because they defended so well, Matt, and that is impressive. Once again, a brilliant defense paves the way for a quick attack.
And that was a strategy that Shanghai used on defense that a lot of teams in the preseason had trouble breaking. It just shows you the Gladiators, they went back, watched a lot of footage, game plan for when the Orisa with the Widowmaker was up on that high ground, how to challenge that. They did it in a great way.
Time for a break as we catch our breath after the blistering pace of the Gladiators. And when we return, we'll head over to our experts for their take on what we just saw.
Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
Name. Go. I'll be watching over. It's not a strategy.
We are live in the Blizzard Arena where the Shanghai Dragons currently trail 2-0 to the Los Angeles Gladiators. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Puckett, at the desk once again. We got Sideshow, we've got Bren, and we've got a lot to talk about, all mostly in favor of the Purple Squad, the Gladiators, making this series quite swift. And Bren, already, they're showing us something unique today. For the first time, we're seeing Doomfist, the short-range DPS hero, in the hands of Hydration.
Yeah, so this is a first that we've seen so far, and I've actually got a lovely little clip just to demonstrate why he's so powerful, where they used him here on Dorado. And if we get this up, we can actually see how we actually made this play happen here.
And this is our insights provided by Intel, brought to you by Bren's Pen. Let's go, Bren. What do you got?
Let's go. So as you can see as well, we've got Hydration here into the building section, right there, just waiting patiently by himself. But this actually provides incredible sightlines for him to use Doomfist. So Doomfist has an ability called Rocket Punch, which can actually do a significant amount of damage to low HP targets, which really is just a playground for him. He can start pushing himself out of this doorway here, and he's got beautiful sight lines all around here to get these picks off from the positioning of Shanghai Dragons. And we got a short clip just to really demonstrate really why it is so powerful. If we just play this one out, and you can see it's only a short one, but again, just the power and the potency of Doomfist on this map is really nothing to be underestimated.
And that's really his key play. That's the insights powered by Intel. We're gonna have a lot more telestration segments coming up here. We wanna know from you guys, which heroes do you want us to focus in on? Because for me, I'm always excited when I see a Doomfist. During Contenders, a guy named Leaf became a household name with his Doomfist. Hydration, one of the few Overwatch League players confident enough to pull it out so far in the regular season.
Yeah, you know, you're going to big Hydration up, though, and he actually got 3 times more deaths than everybody else on his team. He got 3 deaths. And the next highest was 1 death and then another 1 death. So this was an absolute stomping, actually, that happened on Dorado. It was 5 kills for the Shanghai Dragons against 25 kills for Los Angeles Gladiators. So this was a huge difference in terms of how they were taking the fights and whether or not they were actually able to close out those kills. And so it's been a stomping so far for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Shanghai Dragons really got to get back into it.
And we hyped up one guy ahead of the game, and that was Shaz. Of course, we show some love to Big Goose as well, but when you look at the 2 players that are playing the same heroes, Shaz and Freefeel have been seeing a showdown. Shaz seems to come out on top, not only over the other support players, but also even some of the DPS players for Shanghai in their first 2 games.
Yeah, we can take a look at the statistics as well, and you'll see that the damage per minute is crazy coming out from Shaz. Even though the healing's fairly similar because, you know, Freefeel's gonna boost up those people who are taking so much damage, the eliminations, the final blows, the damage that Shaz is able to put out on this hero is incredible, and the fact that he's actually played less time than Freefeel overall. Now, you've got to caveat that with Shanghai Dragons have been getting destroyed so far, so Freefeel's been getting picked a lot more. He's spent a lot more time with the spawn queue, but at the moment, Shaz is living up to the hype.
Let's talk about the big picture here. Shanghai Dragons, we knew they weren't practiced coming into the preseason. They've had 3 weeks now. They only took 2 days off during the holidays. Where are they looking better, Bren, if at all? Because so far, I know we've been watching a lot of the purple team.
Yeah, it's really hard to say that Shanghai were looking better. I mean, before we highlighted Deer as one of their star players and one of the shining lights for this team, but again, even he was struggling to have an impact against LA Gladiators. They seemed much more prepared coming into this match. It really doesn't, you know, hold high regards now for Shanghai as we're coming into the rest of the season, especially considering that they did practice over the holidays. These guys were grafting hard over the course of it, getting into practice matches, getting in, you know, a lot of trying to fix the mistakes were happening in the preseason itself.
Yeah, I think one of the other limitations is just the hero pool that they have access to. They don't have a Genji player on their team, and so they can't dive effectively. They have to play more passive compositions with double hit scan, where Undead is rotating through Reaper and Soldier 76 and Widowmaker while Dia's on the Tracer. So this limits the style that they can play, and at the moment they can't get that aggressive, high tempo stuff like we saw from Los Angeles Valiant with Agilities earlier.
All right, we still have 2 more maps to go. Shanghai Dragons still in this one, but they'll need to win back-to-back if they get the job done. Which player from the Gladiators do they need to shut down, Sideshow?
If they're playing aggressively enough to get onto Shaz, that would be fantastic to take him out of the picture. I don't think they'll be able to. I think starting at the front and trying to shut down some of their tanks with the double hit scan is going to give them the best approach here.
All right, we are halfway through the second match of the day. On the other side of the break, we'll see the finish here as the Gladiators take on the Shanghai Dragons as we go into Control coming up next. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP. and by Intel.
No one can hide from light. My ultimate I'm taking care.
That's teamwork. Reloading.
Name. Go. I'll be watching over.
It's not a strategy.
And our second match of the day here at the Blizzard Arena is one between a team of Enigmas